Okay, looks like we are live. Hello viewers and welcome to our live webinar. As you may know, our goal today is to explore the pros and cons of cross-platform development. This is just a beginning of the digital product journey series, so if you are interested in the topic, stay tuned for more content from us in the near future. More about this in the end of this webinar. My name is Marcin, and I work as a senior mobile engineer at Monterail, and today I'm joined by two guests, Jason and Hubert. Could you please tell us about what you do and a bit about your companies that you represent? Maybe start with Jason.
Yep. Hello, everyone. My name is Jason, and I have been working in the tech startup industry for 6 years. And currently, I'm working in Easyship. And also, my background including engineering, data analyst, as well as the user experience design and project management. Those I have the opportunity to work in a different kind of product, like cover web app and the mobile app development. And mainly right now, working on the SaaS product development in web app, also mobile app in Easyship. So meanwhile, in the past few years, I have opportunity to work develop free mobile app in different kind of company. And it's also the cross-platform development for those mobile app. And about Easyship, there's a lot of things to mention, to be honest. But to simplify it, Easyship is a global shipping platform. That's how e-commerce business for all sizes and selling their product to customers around the world. So it's cover personal user, maybe 1 or 2 parcel per month selling in their social media, and then they input their order manually in our platform. Or the SME, they have hundreds of shipments per month, so they may need some certain level of automation or integrate with their Shopify platform. And even bigger, like enterprise client, maybe 10,000 shipments per month, they need, WMS, also the warehouse integration. So there's a lot of things Easyship can cover, and we offer a variety of shipping options and tools, to simplify the shipping process. So we even have the open API and the integration with the courier size, also the tax and duty calculations, so that they can ship internationally. And the last but not least, the mobile app, so the user can monitor their shipment on the go. So our goal is to make shipping as easy as affordable, for our user or for some new user as well, so that they can focus on growing their business.
Thank you, Jason. Hubert, Can you introduce our company and yourself?
Thank you, Marcin. So hello, everyone. I'm Hubert. I'm principal engineer at Monterail in mobile technologies. For over 6 years, I'm working with the cross-platform technologies. As Monterail, we are a software house who builds the product from the very scratch to the end of the development and maintenance and so on. So we, from the workshops through the design phase, implementation, and then release and maintenance. Today, we will focus mostly on the cross-platform tech, so it will be related with the mobile, web, and desktop.
Thank you, Hubert. So introductions are done. Jason, you gave us a bit of a primer for what Easyship does and the challenges that you are working with. But can you maybe elaborate a bit more about specific setup for your web-based product and the mobile product?
All right. So for the web app, I can simply claim that it's kind of mature product so far, but still a lot of iterations. And the web app is already 7 years. So you can imagine we have a big engineering team, especially in the SaaS product. But also in the tech side, we have a lot of backend engineer, front-end engineers, and using different kind of tools and technology. So for front-end side, mainly AngularJS and React. And the backend side, a lot of language and Ruby on Rails as well for the backend side. So for the mobile app, it's kind of new baby. Like we developed it like 1.5 years ago, and we use React Native to enable the cross platform development. But at the same time, it's not a big team. Like for the mobile app, we work with Monterail together. Mainly the Monterail work with the work for the front end side and the QA testing. And then we have around like 1 to 2 backend support, because we try to migrate like part of the features from the web app to the mobile app, and enable for 2 platforms. So this is how's the overall setup, but the development flows is quite different. I can say that. So for the web app side, it's much faster, because we have the established flow and the roadmap. But like the mobile app side is because it's a new MVP, right? So we don't have a clear roadmap. And also like you can imagine with the small screen and one app, we have to decide clearly and did very like fluent, like thoughtful user testing to think about what is the condensed or compressed features we should put it into the mobile app. So even the research and the design phase is much longer, and we don't know what we're going to do somehow. And for the development side, it's more or less the same, like agile, instead of waterfall for sure. And then the testing as well, but for the testing side, we have automation tests for the web app, but mobile app is mainly like we do the manual testing. And to the release, web app is something like simple, like it's quite established flow. We merge it into the main branch and then release to the production environment. But for the mobile app, it's different flow. So we integrate with the app center so that every time we build the testing app, and we can push it to environment like automatically without like a lot of effort from the engineering side. So we will have like 2 apps, and then after the testing from the engineer, also from the PM side, I mean the Easyship side, then we will release it and then push it to the store listing. So there's the different flow like for each side.
Thank you for the thorough description. Just before we jump into the cross-platform details, Hubert, to not lose anyone in the audience potentially, for the newcomers to the topic, could you explain what cross-platform development even is, and how this approach is different from the native development?
Sure. So in general, cross-platform means that you have one code base, what you can deliver to many platforms. And in our case, if we are talking about the mobile and the web environment, we are talking about the Android, iOS, and web potentially, and also the desktop apps like macOS, Windows, or Linux. And the difference is mainly like it's quite obvious. So the cross-platform, what we mentioned, it's delivering the app to the many platforms at once. So the biggest difference is that in the native development, you have to deliver separate app for iOS and Android. You have to use native languages per platform. So for iOS, Swift or Objective-C, and for Android, Kotlin or Java. Where in cross-platform, there is mostly, we will cover today the Flutter, React Native, and Ionic approach. So we are around the JavaScript or TypeScript and Dart for Flutter. So yeah, of course, that's a bit different philosophy, and also it's a bit different team composition, and of course the many differences in how we build the team, how we build the product, what we will talk about later.
Okay, and just to follow up, in which scenarios you see cross-platform development as the best approach to pick when developing a mobile app?
I believe that like almost 90% of the apps in what we are building is ready for the cross-platform approach. We should always consider what we really aiming for. Of course, there will be some, maybe not even a limitation, but we will have to cover many things natively anyway in cross-platform approach. So we always have to consider what we are building, what is the product is, how many native features, native modules we will use in, how much code we can split between the different platforms. And yeah, basically it's all depends on our needs. But in most cases, even if we have some really native things, what we need, we always can split the app for the part of the native code, and all of the rest can be in the cross-platform approach, what is really common. So I can pick, like, if we have one specific thing what suits only to the native apps and only to the cross-platform, we always have to consider how much effort it would be to use the cross-platform in specific context or the native approach in another.
You mentioned some already alternatives, so I catched 3 of those. So looks like the market for cross-platform solutions are already crowded. Are there big companies in the space that are supporting this or using this approach?
Of course. I think at this moment, almost every company is somehow using the cross-platform approach in their products. Of course, if we are talking about the founders of the main ones, so the Meta and the Google, but also the Microsoft is very engaged in the both React Native and Flutter. We can see they contribute in the library itself. They are really interested in the Flutter desktop approach because it's a really, really nice one. But also, for example, for React Native, the desktop libraries are hosted on the Microsoft GitHubs. So yeah, that proves the engagement. Also, the companies like Shopify, they decided to migrate all the native apps to the React Native one. And also they are providing now some nice libraries, like for the list and things like that. And of course, the list is longer. It's not always like really easy to see where they're using that, because the difference is not visible to the end users. It's only visible in the code. But yeah, we can hear that many bigger companies now invest their time and money in the cross-platform.
Okay, so it looks nice. I mean, it's maybe not as established approach as the native one, because the native one is for much longer, but still there are plenty of players and the solutions are high quality from the looks of it. So from the other perspective, from the product perspective, Jason, what led you to choose React Native amongst the other options?
So thank you for your questions. There's a lot of reason, but like most of them actually is from the user need and also how we plan the project ahead. So I give you the idea. Okay, so we have some feedback like from the user, a lot, because our app like used by different kind of user from more than 10 countries. Actually, it's like globally. And from the feedback, like they wish us and then say, hey, I want to check the shipments and manage the order like from the phone, because I want to have to log into the web app like anytime and then manage my shipment, like maybe cancel it or reschedule it. So there's a lot of users like they request these features, mobile app, like so that they can monitor the shipment on the go. But the problem is, how can we validate it, right? So we look into the data and say, okay, there's a 60% of users, they use iOS, like 40% using Android. But who knows how the data is coming, right? Like some user, they log into the mobile browser, then we have the data. But some of them, they don't even know, they can do it, right? So because of our natures of the business is globally, then it means we can assume 50% of user using iOS, 50% of user using Android. Then moving to the next question is, yes, we know the demand now, we know that need, but how can we optimize the benefits with the minimum cost? So to reach them, which means we need to make two apps. So making two apps at the same time, or one, to the another like later, right? So we come across this concept, right? So cross-platform development. How can we, right now we know the demand, and then we can deliver the product as soon as possible for both platforms altogether. So this is the main reason, it's common sense. We know if we have both apps, we can touch bigger user base and with the more traffic, so that we can acquire more users. So based on that, how we start the cross-platform development. Also, we consider the React Native, because in our platform we use React, which is more compatible, but also for the engineering side, it's easier for them to communicate, to understand the code base. Because at the end, we work with Monterail, but we need someone in Easyship to taking care of it, to understand what's that. So imagine right now you have two platforms. If they are native, then you have to find two engineers who familiar with two code base and understand it. And even the handover process is Monterail side duplicated work, and the Easyship side duplicated work as well. Then when you hand over it, not just produce the document, but the engineer have to go through it, and also the PM side as well. So this is about the documentation, and then how the project plug in and plug out. But the last thing is more about the maintenance side. So it's not just 6-month development, you let it go. But your product itself, maybe there's a lot of interaction. As I mentioned, we don't know the roadmap. We just have MVP, but we are quite sure, because we define MVP, which means it has some interaction. So for the next development, for the long-term maintenance, all they need is how to easily to develop for the both platform and monitor it. So right now, if there's one bug, and for PM it's multitasking, I work for web at the same time, then right now we can just raise out one bug ticket and then push it to the two app and release it. So it's also reduce the work from the PM. And last but not least is about the designer. So for this project, one of the fun fact is we have one design, and that design is starting from iOS app, because I use Apple, designer use Apple, sorry for that. So we produce one mock-up, but we can write the user story, also the detail, the spec for both app, and then the engineer just take one reference, one mock-up, and then make it perfectly. I can gain that for both apps at the same time. So that is the benefits, for the cross-platform development, and that's why we consider it.
So a lot of effort and consideration was put into building the application, and in the end, did the user like the application, or were there some issues with this reported by the users?
All right. Yeah. I can tell you the details. So first, there's two kind of way you can understand how much they love the app. First one is the qualitative feedback, which is by the interview and by the the call with the client. So we don't have a lot of App Store rating or review so far, because we didn't push it. But before we start the development, we invited lots of beta users. So when we start, to launch this mobile app 1 year ago, we also like touch with this beta user again. So it's like around 100 something. And a lot of people like they want to be the volunteer for that. And most of them like positive feedback and say, okay, it's easy to use, it's what I need because I want to like monitor my business on the go, and this is my side business. Maybe I have my full-time work, then I can monitor it. So they find it's easy to use, and we have a lot of visual tool, to let them to find out the features, like copy the tracking ID or like to cancel the shipment just slightly. So this is one thing, but sometimes the user they even lie to themselves. So we have to cross-check with the quantitative feedback. So after the launch of after 3 months, we found, okay, the mobile app is adopt, and the download rate is increasing, but it's normal for new features, right? For new product, like everyone think, it's something new, I want to try it, and starting from zero, so you can see the numbers booming. But after years, like today, we still see, the section duration and the number of section is increasing. And it's also proof that like our product strategy is correct, because we want to touch more user base, increase the stickiness for both apps. So after a year right now, we didn't do a lot of marketing, so the download rate didn't increase a lot, like almost flat, but still growing. But the duration and the stickiness is still increasing after a year. So you can imagine we don't have new download rate, right? No, we don't have crazy growth over there. But still, the same user base is still using more and more. So maybe they can, fall asleep at night, and then in the bed, they're just scrolling their features, and that's what we want. And this is one of the biggest reason why the mobile app is needed, not just for some personal app, but like Easyship, we are like B2B focused more, and they want to monitor their business, and we want to always touch with our user. And even like in the app, they can send us the feedback. So that is what's the great thing in the feedback from the user.
Okay, so nice to hear that the users like the application and still growing in numbers.
Thank you, Monterail.
So that's, kind of our also a part of this was our job. But thank you for mentioning this. Now, from the more technical perspective, Hubert, because you mentioned some of the solutions, so React Native, Flutter, Ionic, potentially more, but not as established. The question is, which one is the best, which is controversial one? And if you don't want to answer this, I understand. The follow-up question to this, the replacement one, would be, what are the advantages over one to the other solution? Because they have to somehow be different from each other.
Oh, thanks, Marcin. Yeah, that's really a hard question. I don't think I will answer what is the best one. And I believe there is no such an answer, because we don't know what is our needs. So we can say what is the best for our specific needs, and that should be the question, always separate for each case. I think what Jason explained is the most crucial part, because we have to remember that when we are building the product, the development is only the one part of the whole process, and I would say even the quite small one, because we have our business needs, we have our user needs, we have some goals what we want to achieve, then we have some vision what we can build, how to build that. Then we have to do some research, we have to implement the designs, then we are implementing our needs, and then after implementation, we have to validate our product, what Jason mentioned. We don't know what will be the result. We can assume something, of course, but always we have to validate that. And what is great in terms of the cross-platform is that it gives us quite shortcut how easily we can iterate our product with the real users, and how cost-effective it is. And when it comes to the specific technologies, when we are talking about the React Native, Flutter, and Ionic, and of course, there are more like native script, Xamarin, and other. In Monterey, we are mostly focused on the Flutter and React Native and Ionic also. But I would say if we are talking about the mobile-first approach, then we are considering the React Native and Flutter. And the powers of the both frameworks and libraries are really similar, let's say. The differences are really small. Let's say that, for example, the Dart is really nice because of the Dart, so the language used in the Flutter library it gives us like more stability because it's better typed, null safe, gives a lot of tools what check the code and can give a hint what can be improved and so on. The React Native nature is come from the React, so it's like more of the freedom. TypeScript helps a bit, of course, but still it's a more like the React environment. So we have some like maybe not the limitations, but some specifics of the TypeScript and React and JavaScript code. So yeah, we can say that there's a bit differences from the development perspective and how the code is written. So we can assume somehow the Dart is a bit easier to maintain the high quality of the code. But of course, it always depends on our team, on our time, and so on. When it comes to the more broad approach, so when we are talking about the web and desktop, I would say if you want to have the web and mobile app, then the React Native is the best fit for me, because we have the really nice implementation from the React Native web library, what easily extends the React Native components to the web and translates it to the React code and pure HTML and CSS, and we can use everything from the web, all the technologies what already exists in the world. Flutter has some limitations in that matter, but on the other hand, the web support is delivered with the framework itself by the Google team. So yeah, so it means that we can expect that in the following months and years probably it will be more and more developed. But at this moment, if we need, of course, the web app in the extension to the mobile one in the Flutter is also possible, but there are some limitations. So again, we have to answer what we really need, and then we have to decide which one we should pick. When it comes to the Ionic, in short, the Ionic is a hybrid approach. So we're using the web technologies, what can be wrapped with the capacitor and deliver it as a native app. And through the Cordova and capacitor plugins, we can access to the native plugins like camera, Bluetooth, push notifications, and all what we need from the mobile app and what is in the native features. And this approach, I would say, is great if we already have the web app, or if it's the web first approach and we want to extend our web experience to the mobile also. I would say it's like more for the small and moderate scale, but of course it's always like in any other. We have to consider what will be our how big the app will be, what features inside we will have, and how it will behave in the web environment run in the mobile app. So yeah, in short, that's a summary. In general, I would say like every cross-platform tech can fit your product, and always you have to go through all of the things what you have to consider. So the features what we will have, how big the app will be, how much data we would have, and maybe some specific things like for the web, like the server-side rendering, so the CEO optimization and things like that. And then we have to answer which one is the best for the specific product.
Thank you for the overview. So there are plenty of solutions with each other's pros and cons. The question is why all of those companies or those maintainers are even bothering with this? What's so problematic, in your opinion, with the native development? What's the biggest pain point with managing two projects for both Android and iOS platforms?
So from my perspective, I think it's also what Jason covered before. So first of all, we have two different teams, and the whole environment in the Android and the iOS is completely different. It's like we don't have much common space when we can work on this together, and that results in many things from the early development to the maintenance phase. So from the development perspective, the problem is that we have to consider the designs for both platforms, and it's not so easy to have one for both in the native development and easily play with that adding additional features in the both platforms. Then there is a more complex release process, because we are not sure if we will have the both apps at the same time. So we always have to somehow synchronize them with the release. Also, when we already release the app, we have to monitor both apps, gather feedback from the both apps. Of course, in cross-platform still we have differences between the iOS and Android, and we have option to have specific feature only per specific platform. But in the end, most of the code, like 95%, is the same for both platforms. So if we have the bug in the app or some issue, or we want to add new feature, we know that we are doing it once. If we want to validate with user a new approach, we can implement it once and have, for example, the A/B tests and see which one works better. And we know that we are covering both platforms at once. So yeah, it reduced of course the time of development, so also the cost, the size of the team. But also it's easier for not only for developers, but also to the project managers, designers, business analysts to work with the product, because we are talking always about the one app, not like two completely separate apps, where the differences, especially after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, the differences become more and more specific per platform. So yeah, I think that's some most important things from my side.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So we are already circling back to the main topic, which is also not only pros and cons of cross-platform, but also how to cut costs. So Jason, from your experience or maybe estimations, how much a company can save on maintenance and development costs when picking cross-platform?
Right. Thank you for your question. That is a very important topic for like all the companies. So I have a metaphor here. If you can have a universal remote control for all the entertainment system, like TV, like computers, and then you just need to build one universal remote control for all the device. So based on that, like if there's only iOS and Android, then I could say that maybe 50%, like including writing code, deploy, testing, like maintenance, raise a ticket in Jira, something like that. So with the risk factor, or like remove some assumption, I try to reduce some number, maybe 30%. But this number, although it's not accurate, it has some meaning. Is that what do we use for the saving cost? Like if we save it, then what's the next step? Like you make use of the cost saved and for the next project. So it's also bring about another topic like opportunity cost. You save the time. You can even like develop a better like mobile app for the user because you can make use of your time to understand what they need. So I have more time, to do the user testing, review the design. Also, how to build the data tracking. Like I have mentioned a series of numbers in the beginning. Why I have this number? Like as a PM, like somehow, you write the requirement, understand the user needs, but also how you monitor the feature success. So this kind of thing is quite time consuming. If you don't have the time, you don't save the time, then I'm quite sure like this kind of metrics, you like somehow you can implement some data tracker, but you won't have the full pictures or like you think about the feature success and the metrics like thoughtfully. So if we have saving the time, so somehow you can even determine what's the next step, to make the features better and understand your product and your user much better. So I think this is the meaning of like why we saving the cost, saving those 30%, and those 30% can determine the next success, for your features.
Thank you. So yeah, that's very specific and worth considering. But also you have long hands-on experience, let's say, with cross-platform. It's a year and a half at least for developing the Easyship application. So what were the biggest challenges for the development process, or even before? What was the main issues that you had with this approach?
Wow, then lots of story. But if it's come to the challenge like side, I could like to mention how we define the MVP and how we define the roadmap and the future strategy for mobile app. So imagine like we have the web app, like Easyship web app for 7 years already. And it's quite mature. And there are 200 like people or like 100 engineers working on the web app. So right now, we develop the mobile app. The web app itself is just like the rocket. And how can you catch it up? You can't catch it up, but you have to think about what kind of features you should put into the mobile app itself. And it's also compatible and make use of the natures of the mobile phone and make it better. So the beginning is quite difficult because so many products we can put over there. But the good side is we have the data and we have the very good management team, like who trust us, and then we said, okay, the user have this kind of behavior, and we do the validation, user testing, and we said this is what we want, and this is the budget as well. So that is one of the challenge. But at the end, from the data side I mentioned, it's also proving this kind of assumption and the feature success. The metrics is is well defined. So that's the first thing. And the second part is about the personas. So in the beginning, I have mentioned we have different kind of persona. Personal, like SME, enterprise. So they have from 1 shipment daily to 10,000 shipment daily, maybe. So, in one app, like one phone, how can you manage 10,000 of shipments? Or like, how can you monitor the tracking for 10,000 shipments? So based on that, this kind of challenge, we still think about how can we deliver the value to all users. So we like right now the proposition for the mobile app is like the accessibility tools is like the adding tools for the current user. So we didn't define it like it's a replacement or like it's another like Easyship app in mobile phone. But we try to find out the good side and the features that can compatible in a mobile phone, such as like monitoring the the tracking and sharing the document like the shipping label. So even like the enterprise client, they have 10,000 of shipment per day. They have the CS and operation problem. So like with the mobile phone, they can serve it as one of the, CS2, share the document or contact their user like easily. So that, this is how we overcome the challenge.
Okay, thank you. As an essence of your experience, if you could go back in time, is there something that you would do differently from the perspective of your experience? Is there a specific point in time that you would do something differently?
Yeah, I think one of the regret is we should start the mobile app development earlier because as I mentioned, we can touch with a lot of user base, and a lot of users actually find Easyship not just in the browser like the web browser, but the mobile browser. So when they find us in the mobile browser, there's small screen, and then they have to sign up, typing everything, and we lost a lot of traffic and user over there. So if we have the mobile app earlier, then they will know us, and then they can sign up as one of our user earlier, and we don't waste their marketing budget for a long period of time. So imagine 7 years, maybe in the 4th years, it's already a lot of users they may need Easyship, they find us, but they can't register and use a mobile app in their phone. Then we waste 3 years for that, 3 years of user, and then we have to catch it back later. So that's one of the requests right now we have, and that's why we developed the mobile app.
One last question before we will jump to the questions from our audience. So we can start gathering those questions now, I think. In the meanwhile, is there from the opposite spectrum? So is there something that you are especially glad for that you picked cross-platform? Any issue that you dodged by not picking, for example, native approach?
Yeah. I don't think I will cover a lot of the technical side, but for the grateful, I feel very grateful for opportunity to work with Monterail, to be honest, because I'm kind of multitasking in Easyship, working in the web app, but also I didn't spend a lot of time needed for mobile app because once we hand over the spec, sometimes Monterail side, the engineer, they will have lots of good feedback. Maybe the design can do it like that, or some missing spec, they advise how to do it. And then with the screenshot, everything's clear in the Jira. So this is something I'm very grateful. Another side is about the product success. I mentioned a lot of things our assumption, and at the end, the metrics prove that our assumption is correct. So this is something I feel grateful because, in the product work, a lot of time, your assumption maybe is not correct until you testing, do the testing for a few times, then you know what's happened. But for the mobile app, we just get one shot, and then not one shot, but more than one shot. But we try once, and we already get the product success. So this is one thing I'm grateful. Kind of lucky. But at the same time, there's a lot of team effort, everyone's, pitching the assumption, pitching the product metric is correct or not, and also the design team, giving a lot of effort to make, how the web app and consolidate, to the mobile apps. And we are not the mobile first design company. We use the web app first. So that is something difficult, but the team make it.
Thank you, Jason. A lot of experience is shared, so thank you for that, you both. And now we can jump to our Q&A questions. I think there is one already. So I would just read this out for whatever is listening to us, and then we can answer this. For companies with an already existing application, what type of product documentation do they need to have ready to start the cross-platform development process? And this is for Hubert.
Okay, thanks for questions. First of all, we have to consider what type of application it is. If it's come to the situation like Jason explained, so we have already the web app and we want to add the mobile app as an extension. So first of all, we have to decide what features we need in the mobile app. Of course, we can consider that we need all of them, but in most cases, it's not the best approach, because it's better to develop something minimal, so MLP or MVP, to see how it will behave in the mobile and how user will use it. So in this context, if we have the web app and want to deliver to the mobile, I would say we have to have the roadmap for what features we want to deliver, and of course some technical documentation, for example, for the backend parts of how the endpoints looks like and so on. Of course, it's like as a Monterail, we are always talking with clients. We have workshops, we have the business analysts, and we are talking about how we can approach that. So if we have the web app, we can even on our side think what is the crucial parts of the app and what would be useful for the users. And of course we have another situation. So we have already the native app, and we are considering to minimize the costs, and we want to deliver the cross-platform app as a replacement or as a part of our native app. And there we have two approaches. So we have to consider rewriting completely the native app to the cross-platform, or consider using some common parts from both apps, so native and iOS app, Android and iOS app, and put the cross-platform common parts, as for example user settings, some common things what can be easily shared between both platforms. And then then it depends what the app is, how big it is, what is the shape of our current native apps, because it's there is many different factors what we have to consider. But anyway, we have always some flexibility, let's say. So if we have the native app, we can use the native code and put some part in the cross-platform, so in Flutter or React Native, or we can just rewrite them completely in the cross-platform approach.
Thank you for that. It was more than it was asked, so I hope that whoever asked this was satisfied with the answer. And now to the other side, a question to Jason. What's the roadmap for Easyship React Native application, and what are the features that you still want to include into the app?
All right, thank you for the question. And yeah, I heard a lot of how tough is the product work it is, from Hubert. And thank you for pointing it out for me. And then for the new features, in the Easyship side, we decided to improve for the next phase. To be honest, we are working with Monterail, but we can't review it at this stage. But at Easyship, we always looking for the way to improve our app and then deliver more value to the user. So I can provide some insights about the recent update in the mobile app. So that you guys can imagine what's the next. So right now, recently we have some new features released in the mobile app. For example, we show the transaction and billing record in the mobile app, so that our user, they can check how's the transaction, how's the money growing, from the credit or from the billing. Then they can checking how's their cash flow look like. But at the same time, we have the claim insurance features. We have the barcode scanner features for both apps, so they can scan their shipping labels and then to check the shipment details of that parcel. And one more new thing is we also push the call to actions, for that shipment dynamically based on the shipment status. So like if you just create a shipment, then we will tell the user like with the call to action, like you can generate the label, print the label, and view the document so that they can go to the next step. So this is the new features we have, but yeah, like although I can like review like how's next, I would suggest check our LinkedIn, follow our LinkedIn, and then you will know the product update version because we are working on it.
Yeah, so you mentioned previously also many features in the web version that are not available. So plenty of additional features are coming. So we should follow you closely to get more information. Okay, thank you for that.
Exactly.
There is also another question from Ivan. Are there any benefits in focusing on either the mobile perspective or the web perspective? What would be the best choice if we are starting the development of some product, I presume, from the start?
Thanks, Ivan, for the question. I think what is great with the cross-platform that we don't have to really know at the very beginning. So, of course, we can assume some approach like web first or mobile first, considering what the product is. For example, if you are building the invoicing platform, probably the web first would be more suitable because it's easier to use the web and the computer for handling things like that. So yeah, sometimes we can like quite easily decide what is the best approach. But in the recent times that we have like smartphones always with ourselves and we need the app, for example, in many places. Like, for example, if we are going to the shop, we are traveling somewhere and so on, then the mobile app is needed. So, for example, like in the case in the Easyship, we are in the shopping center and now we have to change the delivery time or whatever, yeah? And we don't have the computer with ourselves, so then the mobile app is really needed. So, but answering to the question, I would say if we have some like specifics and we can decide like if it's the more web or mobile approach first, then we can quite easily focus on that for the very beginning. But what is great with the cross-platform, we can deliver the same code base to the web and mobile and then decide which platform is used more or suits our needs more or user needs more. And we don't have to really know from the very beginning how we will build our product, because in most cases we don't know. And in like almost every product in the world works this way, that we don't know from the very beginning how successful it will be and how the roadmap to that success will look like. So we are iterating, we are checking our ideas, and then we are finding the way how we want to build that. So yeah, I would say we don't have to know at the very beginning, and we don't know, so we have to iterate, and the cross-platform gives us that opportunity that we can do that quite easily, and then we can decide which one we should focus on.
Thank you, Hubert. So yeah, it looks like it's an answer for every question in tech, basically, that it depends. So let's leave with that. But if you want to know more, you can contact us. We will help you with this. Or if you have any idea of what you want to build, and we are open to this. I don't see any further questions from our audience. So that would be that. The webinar would end here. But if you are interested in the topic, stay tuned for more of the Digital Product Journey series at our website, monterail.com, or follow us on the social media. Thank you, Jason and Hubert, for participating in this discussion. It was plenty that we've gone through. So that's nice for viewers, I guess, the essence of your experiences laid out like this. And to also thank you to everyone who has been watching us this afternoon and asking questions. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.